Hi there, I'm a gay person, and as a gay person, I sure do love Mothman. Since I'm a walking beacon of queer energy, I welcome Mothman into my home and into my heart. I have posters, patches, plushies, buttons, leggings, everything a proper Mothman fanatic could possibly hope for. Now that you've seen my Mothman regalia, I know there's probably one burning question on your mind. Why Mothman? Why are gay people so obsessed with Mothman? In fact, the LGBTQ+ community as a whole seems to be obsessed with all cryptids, and Mothman is just one of the many examples of our community's hyperfixation. But did anyone ever wonder why? Did we ever have to ask ourselves what was so alluring about these strange, anomalous creatures? Why were we so passionate about expressing our love for cryptids and identifying with the unknown? Wonder no longer, my fellow queers. Today I'm going to figure it out. Hopefully, an attempt will be made, but I don't have a doctorate in cryptozoology yet, so I make no promises. Also, if you want me to talk about Tumblr sexy man stuff, I suggest you stick around for a while, because that may or may not be my next video essay. To begin our investigation, we must go back in the same direction that my most two recent video essays have. We need to go back to where everything first began. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome to the world of cryptozoology. This video is about to get weird. Cryptozoology is a pseudoscience and subculture that searches for and studies unknown, legendary, or extinct animals whose present existence is disputed, particularly by those in folklore, such as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. Cryptozoologists refer to these entities as cryptids, a term coined by the subculture. Because it does not follow the scientific method, cryptozoology is considered a pseudoscience by mainstream science. It is neither a branch of zoology nor of folklore studies. Additionally, cryptozoology has been noted to have a lot in common with other pseudosciences of a similar niche, such as ufology and ghost hunting subcultures. As a field, cryptozoology originated in the 1950s from the works of Bernard Heuvelmans, a Belgian zoologist, and Ivan T. Sanderson, a Scottish zoologist. I would like to formally apologize to these two dead guys for butchering their names, along with any other names that will be mentioned in this video. In 1955, Heuvelmans published On the Track of Unknown Animals, a landmark work in the field that was followed by countless other similar pieces of writing, all trying to decipher the mysteries of creatures that had only been heard of in rumors or stories. Not too long after, Sanderson created his own series of books that helped develop many hallmarks of cryptozoology, including Abominable Snowmen, Legends Come to Life, which was published in 1961. The term cryptozoology itself actually dates back from 1959 or before, and Heuvelmans claimed that it was coined by Sanderson. It was derived from ancient Greece's words for hidden secret, animal, and study, all being fused together in a badass term. About 24 years later, the term cryptid was coined in 1983 by a cryptozoologist named J.E. Wall in the summer issue of the International Society of Cryptozoology newsletter. It had been suggested to Wall to replace the more sensationalized terms like monster, since they were often considered to be very misleading in the field's work. The word cryptid instead simply refers to a living thing with the quality of being hidden or unknown, which perfectly describes creatures that may be studied by cryptozoologists. There is a pretty big key difference between biology and cryptozoology, if you haven't already guessed from the basic concepts they focus on. While biologists regularly identify new species, cryptozoologists often focus on creatures from folklore. There really isn't any mainstream or official method of pursuing cryptids, but there have been many attempts to codify the study. Cryptozoologists may use devices like motion-activated cameras, night vision equipment, and audio recording software to search for the creatures they're studying. Very few cryptozoologists have formal science education, which is why people like Professor Roy Mackal are praised so much by the community, since he actually has a legitimate doctorate in biology. By the end of this video, I want to obtain a doctorate in cryptozoology. I'll hang it on my wall like a trophy. Historically, notable cryptozoologists have often identified instances featuring irrefutable evidence, only for the evidence to later be revealed as the product of a hoax. This may occur during a closer examination by experts or upon confession of the hoaxer. This is nonsense, because as someone who lives with a haunted clown doll, ghosts are real, can confirm. Right, Bobo? Bobo agrees. Bobo is my haunted clown doll, by the way. I used him as a prop for my set in the last video essay I posted, and some people left comments about him and how cute he was. Bobo has been recorded to move around the dorm on his own on, like, multiple occasions, so either all of my roommates are fucking with me or that clown is haunted. I choose to believe the latter because Bobo is a queer ally. He has a pride pin and everything. We love him. We stan Bobo in this household. So now that I've bored my entire audience with a historical lecture about the foundations of cryptozoology as a pseudoscience, let's get to the point of this video. Why are gay people so obsessed with cryptids? Well, to understand that, we now have to consider how the queer community has been treated throughout history. That's right, everyone. It's time to talk about everybody's least favorite straight person superiority complex, homophobia. Wow. The first widely used term, homosexual, has often carried a negative connotation in the United States. This term is now primarily used in a scientific context, but the negative stigma was carried over to the more simplified term, gay, which was popularized in the 1970s. As lesbians began to form public identities, the phrases gay and lesbian became much more common. A major political goal of the queer communities at the time, especially lesbian feminists, was to obtain equality with the rights of society's greatest beast, straight white men. For legal purposes, that was a joke, so please don't maul me. Because that would be a hate crime. That was also a joke, guys, please. In the late 1970s and the early 1980s, after the rise of change following group action in the 1969 Stonewall riots of New York City, some gays and lesbians became less accepting of bisexual or transgender people. Critics, if you can even call them that, said that transgender people were acting out stereotypes and bisexuals were simply gay men or lesbian women who were afraid to come out and be honest about their identity. What a bunch of fucking idiots! Because of this, each community has struggled to develop its own identity, including whether, and how, to align with other gender and sexuality-based communities, at times excluding other subgroups. This is a conflict that has, unfortunately, continued to this day. LGBTQ activists and artists have created posters to raise consciousness about the issue since the movement began. From about 1988, activists began to use the initialism LGBT in the United States. Not until the 1990s within the movement did gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people gain equal respect. This spurred some organizations to adopt new names, such as the GLBT Historical Society did in 1999. Although the LGBT community has seen much controversy regarding universal acceptance of different member groups, the term LGBT has been a positive symbol of inclusion. In 2016, GLAAD's Media Reference Guide states that LGBTQ is the preferred initialism, being more inclusive to younger members of the communities who embrace queer as a self-descriptor. However, some people consider queer to be a derogatory term originating in hate speech and rejected, especially older members and parts of the community. I am not one of these people because I am a walking pride flag. I'm non-binary, pan-romantic, and currently in a poly relationship with my two favorite people on the planet. That's as queer as you can get. Throughout the 20th century, it was frowned upon to be gay. A cultural and moral fear of queerness was established at this time, and people were afraid of the gay agenda infecting their youth or corrupting society. In fact, pop culture would frequently villainize the stereotypes and eccentricities often associated with the queer community. Ever notice how nearly all Disney villains were so catty and openly flamboyant in comparison to the straight, grounded heroes? In recent years, the LGBTQ+ community has reclaimed these characters as queer icons, and fell in love with their relatability. After all, who doesn't love Disney villains? They're usually the best part of the movie they're in. Wait a second. Let's revisit what I just said. The LGBTQ+ community reclaimed Disney villains as queer icons. We love how relatable they are, even if that relatability is purely based on surface-level traits such as flamboyant personality quirks or sarcastic, snippy comments towards the heroes. Does that sound familiar to you? Exactly! We've cracked the code! The queer community often finds comfort in characters that they can personally identify with, especially since proper representation in mainstream media had been so poor up until recent years. The Owl House is literally carrying the entire LGBTQ+ community in TV animation right now. I swear to fuck. But before we had cartoons like the Owl House, we had basically nothing. There was nothing we could latch onto. In fact, people would often headcanon existing characters in fiction to be gay or genderqueer. This was because queer people enjoyed relating to someone in their favorite media, and would often see themselves in the character's personality traits or quirks. For instance, what if your comfort character is Rarity from My Little Pony, because you relate to her dramatic outbursts, connect to the fact that she's a frequently misunderstood artist, and enjoy seeing how such a strong, confident woman embraces her femininity? Ta-da! You can say that she's a trans woman just like you. She knows what she likes and is never ashamed of herself or her ideas. The MLP community specifically is notorious for queer ships and headcanons amongst fans, some of which were actually so popular that they became canon in the official cartoon. But that is nothing in comparison to the fandom that has amassed around cryptids in the recent years. Cryptids are different because they aren't from an existing piece of media, they're from widespread folklore and urban legends. The stories of cryptids are much more easily accessible than any TV show or book series, especially since most people are already familiar with a lot of popular cryptid characters. You've probably heard about some of these stories since you were a kid, such as Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster. So, take a group of people who are often insecure about their identities and have a long history of being rejected by society's social norms. Give them stories about fantastical creatures that are too strange for science to comprehend or even prove the existence of, and place them alone together in a world where the internet exists. It was only a matter of time before the queer community paraded these cryptids around as our new comfort characters and mascots. It's easy for us to connect with the strange and unknown because, well, that's how we felt growing up. Gay people were often outcasted or ridiculed by their peers, especially in times of their life when they really needed support and security. Where were we supposed to turn if we wanted to feel accepted and understood? I was a kid when I first began to question my identity, and there was no fictional media that I could consume for comfort. By the way, for this next segment, I'm gonna be staring off into the distance for two reasons. One, I would like to read my teleprompter because this script is insanely long and this is the lengthiest live action segment in this video. And two, I don't want to make direct eye contact with the audience while I talk about my dramatic backstory, so I'm gonna look right here. This is the focus for the next 3 to 4 minutes. When I was younger, I was bullied a lot. Part of the bullying was because I gushed about dorky stuff like cartoons and video games, but a lot of it was just because I wasn't straight. To everyone else around me, that didn't mean that I was gay or genderqueer. It just meant that I wasn't normal. For most of my life, I didn't know what I was supposed to be. I used to think I was a girl because that was all I'd ever known, but it began to feel wrong somehow. I wanted to do the things my brother was doing with his friends. I wanted to dress like my dad. I didn't find any feminine norms appealing, but whenever I'd try to do something else, I was told that I couldn't. So, then I thought I was a boy. Natural progression, I guess. At first, this was a much better fit, but I quickly learned that I didn't like this gender identity either. I struggled with this for many years, just desperate for anyone to understand how alone and confused I felt. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a girl or a boy, I just saw me. And I didn't understand what me was supposed to be. For the first time in my life, I truly felt like the edgy teenager that everyone said I acted like. It was beautiful. It got worse when I began to find that I liked girls. And not just as friends, I liked girls. I wanted to date girls, I wanted to date boys, and I even wanted to date people who didn't fit into either of those two categories. In high school, I lost my entire friend group, the people I'd hung out with since middle school and grade school, in my sophomore year. I was waiting for my turn to audition for the school's production of Phantom of the Opera when I found out. I got a text from this girl, someone I'd considered to be one of my best friends for years, and in that text, she told me that she hadn't been honest with me for a while. She didn't want to be friends with me, and I would later find out it was because she wanted to be normal, and she couldn't be normal if she was friends with me. I was fucking heartbroken. I cried in the rehearsal rooms, and after my audition, I cried out in the hallway by myself. When I came to school the next day, that girl wasn't the only one avoiding me. All of my friends were. As if they all decided that I couldn't be a part of their group anymore, because she said so. I could hear people talking about me in class, and some of the stuff they said was fucking terrible. Now, after all of that, I know what you're probably thinking. Rainbott, what the fuck does any of this have to do with Mothman? And my response is, shut the fuck up, kids, we're gonna get to that after my dramatic backstory. Now allow me to go back to staring awkwardly off screen because I'm an expert filmmaker. Yes, I am. Anyway, things got better after that. I made new friends, joined new social circles, and I even had my very own high school crush. I'd dated people before, both guys and girls, but this was the first time it felt different. I was serious. I really liked her. And she really liked me too. We were in the school musical together in our senior year, and she even went to prom with me. As an added bonus, this was the first time I was finally able to wear a tuxedo to a school dance because my parents had become more accepting of the fact that I was non-binary over the last few years, like once I figured it out. It was the most banger outfit that I have ever worn, and I might show you some pictures if I'm feeling generous enough. All jokes aside, prom was nice. The two of us were overwhelmed by the chaos of the main dance floor, so we went off alone for our own little private waltz. We didn't know what music to play, so we played Owl City songs on her smartphone and did a poorly improvised slow dance in the empty room of the building our prom was being hosted at. And then, after all of that, she decided that she wanted us to try to start dating. And what happened next? The 3 million churches in my hometown shot me 27 times in the chest and told me I was going to hell. Very fun. Seriously, I was bullied and harassed for the rest of the school year. Sometimes even by my own friends. People told me that I was temptation to sin and would rant about how I was going to hell because my mere existence was wrong. Now, just to clarify, I'm not here to make some grand stance on religion or politics because I honestly don't care what anyone's beliefs are. I just lectured you about the history of a very niche pseudoscience that is related to ghost hunting. Do you really think I care what you believe in? Because the answer is no. I literally don't care.
Comet, I love you. Oh.
That being said, I felt like an outcast, just like I had so many years growing up. My friend wasn't even allowed to talk to me anymore because her parents thought I was a spawn of hellfire or something. People would tell me that I should change my ways, acting like I was some sort of monster. And I wasn't alone. Countless other people in the LGBTQ+ community also felt like they were being treated as monsters by their straight peers. So if they wanted to see monsters, that's exactly what the queer community was going to give them. Instead of trying to seek comfort from schools or institutions of any kind, both of which had already failed to help us, we instead turned to our countercultural roots. After all, the queer community does have a history of defying social norms. You want to treat us like we're monsters? We'll show you monsters. We'll even parade them around in the streets with pride flags and rainbow glitter. The whole shebang. There's actually a BuzzFeed article about this topic that gave me ideas for this video, written by John Paul Brammer, and it was really neat to read about another gay person's perspective on the matter. In the article, Brammer explains how watching a video about Mothman's prophecy had sent him down a rabbit hole of watching other spooky videos online. And I know for a fact that this is an experience shared by many others around the world. It's pretty common for people in the queer community to be fascinated by the horror genre or monsters of any kind, and it seems like this was the result of many shared experiences growing up online. To better explain what I mean, allow me to quote Brammer's article, because he expresses it in words a lot better than I could. I understand why so many gay men see themselves in pop divas. It's a sentiment I share myself. We have, after all, been historically shamed for expressing vulnerability, femininity, and sexuality. The fever dream of tapping into those things and drawing power from them is intoxicating. It's what keeps us invested in our queens through their highs and lows, and what compels us to overspend on their exorbitantly priced merch. They present a power trip that we can easily access. They are us, victorious. Pop stars sell us a fantasy of triumph, but so do monsters. It's just that the concept of victory, what it looks like and how it's defined, is a little bit different. Queer people, finally fed up with being called villains, decide to reclaim cryptids as their own. It's a delicious subversion of the rhetoric that has historically been used against us. A reclamation, a reappropriation, a hijacking. Sure, there are plenty of gay and queer people who bristle at the prospect of being compared to monsters. I understand where they're coming from on that front. There's a long and troubling history of queer people being demonized by mainstream society. More than that, queer people have been long portrayed exclusively as villains in the media, in addition to being villainized in real life. It wasn't until recently that LGBT representation in film and television has grown more varied and positive. Not everyone is willing to embrace or subvert the evil queer trope. The great tradition of queer people simultaneously mocking and seeking themselves out in mainstream culture won't die anytime soon. Many have found themselves looking to pop stars or fictional characters in movies or TV shows to find empowerment and strength. I have one such figure as well. Mine just happens to be a little taller than yours. With all of that out in the open, I think it's about time we reach some sort of conclusion. What conclusion, you may ask? I don't know. I have no idea. But it's really funny to watch straight people get mad when we all collectively claim that Mothman is real and he's our boyfriend. That shit's awesome. So why not do it? Okay, but really, a conclusion. The queer community takes pride in using cryptids as mascots because it acts as a middle finger to what society had always claimed we were. You want monsters? Here they are. We drew them wearing sunglasses and doing kickflips because we don't care how you think we should live. When we feel like outcasts, it's nice to seek comfort in other creatures who are just as outcasted as we are, and it's empowering for us to live vicariously through these stories. Sure, a monster striking horror in the hearts of a town may not seem like a victory, but it's the power they hold that draws us in. Much like the pop singers and divas of mainstream culture, cryptids display a sensationalized beacon of power and independence. It's just done in a much more edgy fashion, which perfectly suits the queer community's tendency to lean into online culture for the horror genre and geeky science fiction stuff. So I think we can all agree on two things. Firstly, I have earned this. I am now Dr. Rainbott, with my official doctorate of Homo Civitas Cryptozoology. I couldn't get a doctorate in normal cryptozoology because that requires paying a lot of money for online courses, and I already pay a fuck ton of money to attend an art school, so that wasn't gonna happen. This is my doctorate for the extremely niche subgenre pseudoscience that I invented while writing this video. Homo civitas cryptozoology, which is the study of cryptids in the context of the LGBTQ+ community. I had to Google search Latin words for this, so I'm really happy with it. Secondly, as the world's first person to get a doctorate in Homo civitas cryptozoology, I would like to propose that I do a mini-series of shorter videos about different cryptids. I think it would be neat to talk about stuff like the Flatwoods Monster or the Fresno Nightcrawler, which is probably my favorite cryptid, by the way. I have a little pin of him right there. He's running with rainbows, you just know he's gay. However, there's a catch. I would want the finale of this mini-series to be my giant Mothman retrospective, and I'm only making that video if we reach 100K subscribers by the end of 2022, so wish me luck, everyone, if you want to see that video. Guys, gals, and non-binary pals, I hope you enjoyed this little video of mine. If you liked it a lot, you should consider supporting me on Patreon so I can continue making my analog horror series called Welcome to Dreamworld. It's pretty cool, and the Patreon has a lot of great perks, so you should go check it out. Last but certainly not least, I would like to wish you all a fantastic evening. Good night, everyone.